Do you have a problem with his 4-year contract extension?
Yes, only in the fact that it's 4 years. When we talk about 4 and 5 year deals, I have no problem with a new coach that's been brought to a new system, assigned to build a program and build a culture. I got no issues with that. That takes time. Now, obviously, if they're not getting the job done and they see, you just look at them and they're straight garbage and you can tell in year 1 or 2, you got to make changes. You got to make modifications. I understand that. But for the most part, when you're new to something and it requires time to build all of those things, I respect that. John Harbaugh has been there since 2008. Now, he made the playoffs this past year, but there's been several years where they've missed the playoffs, which is why he was on the hot seat. We're sitting there looking at a coach of Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh where you got folks talking about he should be gone, and he's been to the playoffs a whole bunch of times. He's won 65% of his games and all of this stuff. John Harbaugh's
hasn't he had more talent? Isn't it fair to say Tomlin had more talent than Harbaugh?
John Harbaugh, one could argue, having Ozzie Newsome as a general manager, which is widely recognized one of the greatest ever, along with having the ear of Ozzie Newsome, which means he has something to do with the talent that's been accumulated on the Baltimore Ravens. Again, I have no issue with an extension. He deserves an extension. I got no issues with it. All I'm trying to say is that and I'm being a bit technical here, like literal, because 4 years, I understand it may not necessarily be 4 years. You could be out in 3.
No, but you're being a bit disrespectful. That's what you're being.
All right, go ahead.
You're being a bit disrespectful.
Go ahead. I don't think so, but go ahead.
He has been over 500 in 8 of his 11 years. He has been to the Super Bowl. He has done this, and I hate the Mike Tomlin comparison. Molly's exactly right. Who's had more talent over the last decade? The Pittsburgh Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens? And you know what? Let's just limit it because it's worthwhile to limit it.
Offensively, not defensively.
But come on, man.
No, I'm just saying, not defensively. It's a fact, Will. Pittsburgh hasn't had Baltimore's defensive talent.
Let's do this Socratically.
Okay.
Is Joe Flacco an above-average quarterback?
Well, he was.
Come on,
not
Steve.
now.
Come on, Steve.
Not now.
You
he
called
was
him
above.
Fluco.
Talking about. He was above average, y'all. Come on now.
For a
I never
year.
denied that.
For a year.
I never denied that.
For 1 year.
Go ahead.
So he did all this with Joe Flacco. And in my mind, the reason he deserves the extension, Damien, is because he's done the ultimate thing that is the test of a coach. And that is, can you adapt? And he not only did it, he did it mid-season. He went from an offense led by Joe Flacco to an offense led by Lamar Jackson. That requires not just a shift in personnel, but a shift in strategy and philosophy. And if you can adapt on the fly like that, you are one hell of a coach. And that was echoed by the league with teams like the Jets or the Dolphins interested in potentially trading for John Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. This guy can coach.
Go ahead.
No, I think he absolutely deserved the extension. I think for a lot of reasons that Will said, the fact you go from a Joe Flacco, your traditional drop-back quarterback where they're floundering as a team, and everyone's talking about John Harbaugh possibly getting relieved of his duty after the season. Then you bring in Lamar Jackson, who essentially saves your season. But to make that transition during a season is not easy at all because their styles contrast so wide that you got to give props to the coach in that particular situation because that is not easy to do.
Y'all argument holds water to me, and it's very significant. If I sat up there and said that John Harbaugh did not deserve the extension, that would have been disrespectful. I understand that. What I am saying to you is that the culture that exists in Baltimore and all the things we talk about a team needing to build, Harbaugh has been there to do it for the last decade. Prior to this year, they had missed the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years. Coughlin was gone from the Giants for the same reason. We had a problem with the fact that Jerry Reese and others didn't go with him at that particular moment in time, that he was used as a scapegoat, but nobody was coming to the defense of a 2-time Super Bowl champion who was missing the postseason. So why should we come to that level of defense for a guy who won 1 Super Bowl and then missed the playoffs the following year and then missed the playoffs the next 4 years? That is what the situation was with John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh is one of the best coaches
So
in the
do
league.
I.
Obviously not Bill Belichick level, but right there. I think he's phenomenal. But can the Ravens win a Super Bowl with Harbaugh and Flacco?
What Flacco? No.
I'm sorry.
You talking about with Lamar Jackson?
Harbaugh and Jackson.
Yes.
No, I don't think. The version that we
Like
see,
that combo.
the version of Lamar Jackson that we see right now, no, that's not going to win a Super Bowl.
I'm with you.
It is absolutely not
I
going to
agree.
win. Think about
So
what's
what do they do?
Think
Draft
about
a
what's in the
quarterback?
think about what's in the AFC. I mean, you're talking about Pat Mahomes. I mean,
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes has an opportunity to put a stranglehold on the AFC for years once this whole Patriots dynasty, kind of drifts away.
I'm doubtful as well that this combination of Harbaugh and Jackson can win a Super Bowl. But that is part of the reason I think that John Harbaugh should have the leeway to develop him over a 3 to 4 year horizon. The contract, by the way, goes through 2022, so it's really a 3-year extension. Because he had a year left. But the point of the length of time, and this takes us to Molly's question, is he needs time to see if this reboot with Lamar Jackson has a high ceiling. And that's going to require Lamar Jackson to be developed, to be brought along. And if they don't win a Super Bowl, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be about Jackson, not Harbaugh.
And I'm saying to you, I can live with that argument. I can stomach that. And I don't disagree with your point. My overlying point is this. If you are a guy that has been there and you served a pivotal role in developing a culture, at some point in time, and John Harbaugh just uses as an example to really crystallize a bigger issue for me, and that is guys who have been there. Too many times we see guys, and you know what? Okay, they accomplished this years ago, so we're going to leave them. Sean Payton is another example of that. He won a Super Bowl in 2009, so you could miss the playoffs several years. No, you don't need to be missing the playoffs with Drew Brees as your quarterback. Bill Belichick wouldn't be needing to miss the playoffs with Tom Brady as his quarterback. Mike Tomlin is getting criticized because he has Big Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback, even though John Harbaugh didn't necessarily have that in Flacco. Because he's been there and because their defense has been stout pretty much the majority of his time there, it is all right for anybody to expect that there won't be a similar drop-off to what happened after you won the Super Bowl years ago. I think that's a fair assumption to draw with John Harbaugh.